Alright guys, this is ArtPop Reviews. Today we're going to review Independence Day. You're probably wondering why I got a chancleta on my hand. I'll get to that later. Independence Day is the sequel to a movie that happened 20 years ago. So basically, we kicked their ass 20 years ago, and now they're back with their mama. And, actually, like growing up in a Spanish neighborhood, I remember when kids got their ass beat, they would go get their mom, and the mom would come down with the chancleta. Bah, bah, everybody was dead. So, and chancleta in English means weapon of mass destruction. So, yeah, that's the chancleta. Okay, guys, let's get started on the review. So when I went in to go see Independence Day, I was actually pumped about this movie, but there were some big questions. I wanted to know if the absence of Will Smith, will that be noticed? Will it just be a big hindrance to the enjoyment of the film overall? And can this movie 20 years later, can it clone the fun and the charm of the original? And Will Smith was definitely, his absence was noticed, and I didn't think this movie was charming or fun or good at all. And then it's a shame, really, because I was rooting for Independence Day. I wanted a really fun summer movie that you can just, sit down with your friends and have some popcorn and have a good time. Now, World of Warcraft was that movie for me, and I was really hoping that to repeat it again with Independence Day. The director of the film, Roland Emmerich, has made a long and good career out of making disaster movies. So he revolutionized some things in Hollywood and made disaster movies an event thing, made them event films. And then with the original Independence Day, he made an alien invasion into that, and it was very cool. I can still watch it today. It's a lot of fun. And they had a good time. And again, I was just hoping for a repeat of that. But this time around, Hollywood's a little different. Things have to be bigger and, more spectacle. Speaking of spectacle, what I'm doing here is I am drawing just kind of like the Queen alien thing. I'm actually working on a project, and I need to draw some aliens anyway, so it just kind of all goes together. So as I draw, different aliens and potential ideas for my game, I can actually still, put some things together and incorporate the movie review into it. Okay, so the basic premise of the film is that 20 years later, after we defeated the aliens, they come back. But because we had access to their technology after we won, there were some amazing advancements with human science, combining and reverse engineering the alien technology. So we were kind of badass, and I really wanted to see cool ships and awesome guns and stuff, because you get to do that in video games, but in films rarely do they X amount of years later with their technology we have this and that. So I was really pumped about the potential. So they come back, but this time they bring their mom with the chancleta. If you remember that, the big queen comes because we beat up the kid, and he went and got his mama, and his mama came down, and she had a big ship that took a fourth of the earth to land, and then that was a disaster, And then, the movie just starts from there, and then there's there's some action and some terrible acting and so forth. There were a few things that were like, I was like, what? Like, apparently there was like a ground war in Africa when one of the ships crash landed there. And like, I was like, oh, that would have been a cool movie. Like, instead, it's like the aftermath, and that was the ship that we went to find out that they were sending a distress call, and calling their mama, the queen alien, down. So there were a lot of things like that. Some things that were just dumb, and I was like, what? And that's I thought that's what I thought was the most interesting thing about this film, is that the original Independence Day and just that time back then, that movie started certain blockbuster summer cliches that now this film is a victim of. Like, it just, instead of creating new potential cliches, it just suffers from its past, but with none of the fun. Like, none of the fun. So, okay, let me draw a different alien here. So since the aliens in my project here, they're kind of like the hive mind too, and then there's a queen or whatever. So, like, I'll be doing a bunch of little doodles and stuff like that for them. So yeah, this one, like, instead of the typical cliche of a love triangle, this one has the hate triangle, and which is basically like characters who had a past, something happened and they fell out. One of them's in the middle, two are on the other side of the conflict, and they kind of have to group up in order to face this threat. Like, so instead of the typical love triangle, it was, that. And like the original Independence Day, like, the world had to come together to face these alien threats, and in this one, it's like three terrible kids, like one that doesn't listen, one that's living under his father's shadow because he was too busy doing Suicide Squad to make it this movie, and then the girl from It Follows, that she finally got away from the monster, and now she's here working for the White House. I don't know. I mean, Jeff Goldblum was fine. Even Judd Hirsch was okay, even though I hated his little road trip school bus children thing. I'm not even sure, like, I was hoping he died because they killed Vivica Fox. Oh, spoilers. They killed Vivica Fox in like 30 seconds. She's working at a hospital. She goes and she's like, we gotta rescue everybody in the hospital. Typical cliche scenario where doctors and nurses are like, we've got to get everyone out of here, that sort of thing. And then, like, so, they go and try to rescue him, and like, she ends up being left behind, and you can see the building collapse, and her son, like Will Smith's son, and her son, it's like he's in the air and he's like, no, mother, like, actually that was more that he didn't even do that. Like, I was actually better in that scene just now than he was in the movie. It was just so like, oh, she's dead. So yeah, it just had some bad writing, none of the clever dialogue and witty quips that the first one had. The special effects were pretty good. I thought they were okay. The spectacle of the destruction was okay. We've seen it a dozen times. Now, the one thing I did notice, and I will point out, is that for years, like, New York, LA have been the center of destruction in movies. In fact, one of you guys out there should look up what city's been destroyed the most. And for a while, it was hot to destroy London. Like, it was just, everybody was destroying that joint. Just bam, London. It was just big. And you can tell that's where the money's coming from. So, but now, the new Chinese market, and the Chinese are putting, plenty of money, and we want to get into that box office. So expect China to be like the new destination for destruction in some of these movies, because like, it was so big. It was just like, I think one of the arms of the mothership landing, was landing in China, and then like destroyed it. And then like there's a super hot Chinese model who's one of the pilots that that they also have in there, starring in there, because the Chinese money. No problem with that. I understand that is the direction that Hollywood is going. We have to, we're in a now global market, so cool. So but expect that. So if you don't like it, too bad, because we're done with London and New York. It's not the jam to destroy those. Now it's all about blowing up China, and you'll see some more of that later. Well, okay. Like I normally do, I'm hit or miss with these reviews. That's all. That's the only way I grade them, is either a hit or a miss. Obviously, from earlier and the current recording, this is definitely not gonna be a hit. So that's about it. It looks like I'm finishing up one of my little alien doodles here. In fact, I'll finish it up and do something else with it. So you'll see it again. And so guys, thank you for listening, and I appreciate the love. Give me some likes, some thumbs up, some comments. Let me know what you thought of Independence Day. Is it me? Was it I'm just a little overcritical, or were you also disappointed? All right, I appreciate it. Peace.